Ever pondered what the future holds for gaming and technology in the Baltic and Nordic regions? The answer lies in the evolution of the Mare Balticum Gaming and Tech Summit, an event that has grown from strength to strength, creating ripples of transformation in the gaming and tech landscapes. Since its inception, this summit has been more than just a gathering. It's been a vibrant hub of innovation, a crucible of ideas, and a catalyst for change. Every year, it tours the Baltic capitals, bringing together the brightest minds to discuss, debate, and shape the future. The Mare Balticum Gaming and Tech Summit has been a beacon, illuminating the path for gaming and tech professionals. It has sparked conversations around emerging trends, fostered collaborations, and propelled the growth of the industry in the Baltic and Nordic regions. With each passing year, the event has evolved, reflecting the dynamic nature of the gaming and tech industries. It's grown in scale, in scope, and in ambition. And in 2024, it's all set to make waves in Tallinn, followed by Vilnius in 2025 and Riga in 2026. The significance of the Mare Balticum Gaming and Tech Summit cannot be overstated. It's not just an event, it's a movement, a harbinger of the future. It's where gaming meets technology, where innovation meets opportunity, where the future is not just predicted, but created. So, as we look to the horizon, one thing is clear. The future of gaming and technology in the Baltic and Nordic regions is bright, and it's being shaped right here at the Mare Balticum Gaming and Tech Summit.
Cooking up and whipping up batches. They be trying to sit in my practice. Clip them like latches. These hoes really are ratchet. That shit, throw it back, am I gon' catch it? Snatch it. With the drinks already. Bass gon' shake, but my hands stay steady. Nightmare, someone tell the fans I'm Freddy. On my eyes pale white like a phantom. Betty gon' drop. On state, get it, don't flop. Run, pick it up, don't stop. Tell them run at my block. Got a sinister thought. Never will I ever give up till my enemies rot. And my set we all pop. Whole crew sitting on top. Drove straight out the lot. Getting paid like a lot. Wardrobe shit you can't cop. I done put them in a hole for the start. Give it all for the art, for the charts and the hoes and the fame. When it came too far now, then I'm porching my fortune. I'm in it for the long run, I'm staying. Feeling my pain, stealing my prime. Playing this game, money on mine. Get on my lane, getting that line. I done put in that work, now the world's all mine. Grinding. Myself, friends switched up, I'm still on myself. Old me's dead, I'm killing myself. When the wire hits, might drop 10 on myself. Calm, shit, I'm on a little too strong. Put me in the middle of a storm, never like shit calm. Only ever like shit bomb, getting hot, trying to right my wrongs. I be bitter with a passion, cash in, never want to be relaxing. Maxing, trap rappers, I be taxing. Cash in, I'ma put them in a casket. Basket, trying to get up on the track. I laugh, your shit's whack, every single word is cap. No cap, my shit slap, no debating, I'm a masker. Ask her, that's fast. When I pull, I go fast and cast it, just blast. On state, get it, don't flop. Run, pick it up, don't stop till I'm running my block. Got a sinister thought, never will I ever give up till my enemies rot. And my set we all pop, whole crew sitting on top. Drove straight out the lot, getting paid like a lot. Wardrobe shit you can't cop. I done put them in a hole for the start. Give it all for the art, for the charts and the hoes and the fame. When it came too far now, then I'm porching my fortune. I'm in it for the long run, I'm staying. Feeling my pain, stealing my prime. Playing this game, money on mine. Get on my lane, getting that line. I done put in that work, now the world's all mine. Grinding.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me, and I hope you enjoyed our loading screen for the We Will Be Live soon. We love it. We wish we could play it all day long. So nice to have you back here. Today we kicked off with the European Gaming Quarterly Meetup, and now it's time for the Gaming Americas Quarterly Meetup. And we're sticking to almost the same topic because we were talking about social media in the first part, and now we're talking about creating your own personal brand. So it's a pleasure to have here Claire Vellard, now Adamu, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Domenica Sot, and Katya Machuganova, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Hi guys, nice to have you here.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Hi, great to be here.
All right, so before we dive into the intro and questions, I just want to hear you say a few words about yourself and your companies and the career you followed. So let's start with Claire.
Yeah, hi everybody. So yes, I was Claire Wallard and recently just got married, which is always an interesting one for women in the industry and in any career when you're well known for a name and all of a sudden you're someone new. So I've spent the last few months having that is in brackets so people remembered it was me. I've been in the industry since 2006, so a really long time, what feels like a really long time, always in affiliate management. So I've worked for operators specifically. I ran an affiliate network for 10 years and recently have been working with a US affiliate running their affiliate department. And have recently, last year, actually become VP of Development for Soroka, which is a leadership and coaching company covering lots of different industries, and we are really proud to be coming into the gaming industry and have launched our flagship program, the Lead Hership, which is just over halfway through the program. So very proud to be part of that as well.
All right, thank you so much. Katya.
Hello, once again, and I would like to quickly introduce myself. I'm a product owner in GAN. This is Game Account Network, a well-renowned company, especially in North America, but also with our in-house game studio of Silverback Gaming. We are very popular in Europe as well. I'm part of the product team for our in-house game studio, Silverback, and I'm responsible for the game development. I'm actually an expert in digital media and video games as well. So games are my expertise. Recently, I have also been engaged with a lot of marketing initiatives within our in-house game studio. So it is a very important topic, the one that you have selected for today's meeting and discussion. And I will be happy to speak about those topics as well.
All right. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Domenica, she was probably just waking up in New York.
Yes, thank you for having me on this panel. Currently in New York for SBC North America, so killing two birds with one stone, as we say. And I'm Domenica Schott. I'm head of marketing at Grid Esports. So as the name may suggest you, we're working with esports data, esports live data. We're the official data provider for major sports books and operators globally, and we work with rights holders on behalf of whom we provide this data to the industry. So Riot Games, Krafton, Ubisoft, these are our partners. And with Grid, we've been pioneering these solutions for a while, and the use of official data and the use of technology to extract this data and provide the best quality of the asset to the market, since it comes directly from the source. And obviously, given what we're doing and the fact that it's pretty niche and quite targeted and quite specific, having personal brand in this domain and building trust with the operators who very often are in the esports industry or hear about esports industry for the first time. So to guide them through the process of integration or make sure that they have the best experience requires a lot of trust, and that's where personal branding is also very useful and comes handy.
All right, thank you so much. We talked about this personal branding in this morning at European Gaming Meetup, but I just want to say that have you ever noticed how the iGaming industry feels like a packed elevator sometimes? You know, like everyone is trying to be somebody, squeezing in to make some name for themselves. This has been going on for the past years now. And here we are now talking about building your personal brand. It's like we're saying, excuse me, can you spot me in this little space here? I'm a leader. I'm a brand that you need to consider. So what's the game plan, right? So do we need to get our faces plastered in every gaming magazine out there, or website, or banner, or what kind of content actually sticks? Do you go with deep, insightful stuff, or just keep spamming those top 10 list everywhere? And of course, we're going to talk about the awards. So can you actually hang a plaque on your wall and suddenly become a go-to guru in the room? And so we're diving into all of this today and figuring out if you can just really craft a brand that stands out in this digital industry, or which we all call iGaming industry. So either way, my first question would be for everyone. Of course, all the questions will be for everyone. So can you begin by walking us through how you have approached the process of building your own personal brand within the iGaming industry? Let's start with Claire.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky, like you say, it's a really crowded elevator. There is a lot of people. Back in 2006, it was a lot easier, particularly if you were in the affiliate space, the amount of females was very, very small. So it was easy to stand out back in those days. Now it's incredibly crowded and incredibly competitive. And I think there is still definitely room to have a presence and have a voice and be seen. It's just finding your place, right? It's what can you bring to the table as well. So finding what is your specialty, because not everyone's great at everything. Even as an affiliate manager, there'll be parts of that you are really great at. And so it's making sure that or my experience is that I'm consistent with who I am, that I show up. You know, I'm known for, I'm hoping I'm known for a great personality, and always keeping in touch with people and making sure that they remember that I'm still around. Hey, how are you going? And adding, for me, I add that personal touch. So when I'm speaking to affiliates, when I'm speaking to operators, I try and remember something about them, or I try and, I'll look at some of the social media that they have. I have a lot of connections of affiliate managers and affiliates on my socials, not just my LinkedIn, because over nearly 20 years, I've built personal relationships with a lot of people. And I think that really helps when people remember, I put a story up, or they put a story up that they're traveling, they're with their family, they're at one of the conferences. And I'll be like, hey, I'm at the show, let's meet up, let's have a coffee. And so it is a process, definitely. And it takes time to build up your name and your reputation, and there's the slow burns and then there's the quick wins. There is, and I'm sure the ladies will attest to this, there's other ways that you can get your name out, and I think we'll come on to this about using some of the press as well, and writing articles and being on podcasts and webinars and being on stage. And it's finding your comfort zone as well, because what works for somebody may not work for somebody else.
All right, thank you so much. Katja, what's your take on this?
Yeah, building a personal brand within the iGaming industry for me involves several steps which I'm trying to follow while I'm doing this for myself. So first, of course, the most important for me is to identify your niche, your expertise, to determine your specific area of expertise and interests, and to try to do this. It can be anything from game development and design to content creation, marketing. Of course, I have found mine, which is game development, and I'm trying to stay close to this topic, to build my expertise around game development and features and everything that is coming on the game development scene. Also, creating valuable content is very important because when you share your knowledge and insights through various channels, such as blogs, social media, podcasts, YouTube, whatever, this is helping you to focus on creating content that provides value to your target audience, and whether it's industry analysis, tips or tricks or whatever, in-depth tutorials, this is really helping to create valuable content for your target audience. Also, engaging with the community is very important for me, to actively participate in any industry forums, online communities, social media as well, groups. I'm happy to be part of a few of the most important women associations, which are helping us a lot to build ourselves as experts in the iGaming sphere. So this is really important. It cannot go without networking. So attending industry events is part of the road. Conferences and everywhere where you can speak with your colleagues, other company representatives, because sometimes during those discussions, innovation is being born. So this is the way to do it. So to stay consistent, and consistency is very important. Authenticity, this is very important. And those are the few steps that I'm trying to follow whenever I'm building my personal brand awareness.
All right, thank you so much. Dominika, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think I can add to what the ladies have said, is to be authentic and to be competent in the first place. Because if you're good at your job and you're the same person online that you're afterwards offline, then this credibility will take you long way. And I think like building personal brand has to be deeply rooted in these two things, because if you are not an expert in your domain, and if you don't treat people with respect, and then you hop on social media and you post all the wholesome posts that we see about people being thrilled that they can announce, or grateful, or whatever they are, these different forms that we all know from memes. If this is like your only way of giving back to the communities by putting yourself in the spotlight, then this is not really a long run. This is like a bit of a sprint, and you can get like a LinkedIn badge or something, but you don't really have a brand. You're an expert on one social media platform. And building personal brand takes much more effort, and requires you to be consistent offline and online, and to really ask yourself if this is for you as well, because not everyone is that outgoing, and not everyone is capable of maintaining the large network of people that would eventually come to you for an advice, or just to chat because they feel like you're the right person to do so. And growing your visibility comes with a bit of responsibility as well. And I think it's the first thing is to ask yourself if you're in the position where you can afford this time investment as well. And then if you check these boxes and you feel that this is for you, then it's consistency, authenticity, and competence that I think can really help you to achieve your goals in building the brand that represents you.
All right, it's a good thing that you guys mentioned the offline presence as well, because we've seen a lot of executives being so smart on social media, having the AI tool around and posting some very interesting stuff. But when you get to meet them in person, it's like you're talking to a different person out there. And there's no authenticity. There's the same person. Like you just go on the feed and you see at least 10 people posting in the same style, in the same theme, then you know it's AI. So it's like, have you ever wondered why iGaming execs are just always chattering away on social media, and they're just popping up in your news with their 2 cents, like it's like every executive out there is suddenly thinks that they're the next influencer or something, like, watch out, here comes my opinion, I'm going to tell you how things work. But seriously, why the big push to be to the herd? So I'm also interested about why is it important that iGaming executives establish their own voices within the media and social media platform, and how can this help you in a long term? Like,
Yeah.
Like I told you, with the offline and online presence, on the long term, you get to meet those persons you are chatting with on social media, and they realize you're not the same person.
Yeah, I definitely think, you're 100% right in everything you say in that. And I think it is the right thing to be authentic online and offline. And it's really apparent if your personality online looks like everybody else and looks like an AI generated piece of content. And for me, sometimes I think I'd rather not, I'd not post I don't want to post anything if it doesn't resonate with me, if it's nothing, where you can repost stuff that has already been said, but it's in your way and your interpretation, or share something that inspires you, or share something that you agree with, or maybe share something that you don't agree with, and these are your reasons why, and it might not be that you have to put something new out, but you can join the conversations. And like Katja was saying, there's many groups and many social opportunities in this industry to join a community, lots of forums that you can join, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups. So there's lots of ways that you can get involved. And one, you can get your voice out there, but also you can learn so much from other people, and people respect you for that as well. Asking questions and networking. And that's really good from an immediate point of view. You get to grow and you get to get your name out there. But long term, if you're in this for a career rather than just a 9-to-5 in and out job, if you're wanting to build a career, and there's so many amazing opportunities in this industry, you need to be in it for a longer game, and you need to be consistently out there. You need to be building your network of people that you can work with now, or maybe become it. You might meet someone this like I think SBC North Americas this week, you might meet someone this week, you may not work with them for 10 years, but you've built a good connection, you've had a great conversation at a conference, someone's introduced you. It's that long game where you just start building that rapport with people. You connect on LinkedIn, they see what you're posting, you see what they're posting, and then it's those recommendations, and you get to be known as somebody that has a great network of influential people. And that's really important as well. It may not be the immediate gain for yourself personally, this is what I've learned, but it could be the way that you're trusted to know the right people. You're in a great circle of people that can help other people, that have got something, maybe a payment providers or game solutions or whatever somebody else needs. Someone that can help. They're recruiting staff. Hey, do you know what? I met this really great affiliate manager. I'm not sure they're totally happy. I think you should chat with them. So it's not for your gain, but actually it just builds up your credibility. And I think that's also really important from a long-term perspective, sorry.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to all the viewers who are joining us from the SBC conference. All right, Katja, you're next.
Yeah, I would like to add that credibility and trust are very important here, because by sharing our expertise or insights and opinions on relevant, of course, industry topics, not on whatever we would like to share, iGaming executives can build credibility and trust in the broader community. So this is very important. Enhancing visibility and influence is also can lead to more opportunities for partnerships and collaborations, because at the end we are people. Businesses consist of people working with other people, so you have to be respected in your sphere. Also, to stay competitive, sharing timely updates, it's very important, because whenever you share a very, very fresh information, this is highly appreciated by your peers, and we can see those reactions in LinkedIn or all the social medias after somebody sharing something very fresh and new to the audience. Of course, networking and relationship building, this is already something that we mentioned, but something very important here I would like to highlight: the crisis management and reputation protection, because in the event of a crisis or negative publicity, having a strong personal brand is really important to establish your voice on the social media, and this can help you effectively manage the crisis or the situation and to protect your reputation. This is really important because we can see iGaming is so dynamic. Sometimes crisis happens, so it is very important that can we use those platforms to address concerns, to provide transparency, to maintain the trust within our audience. So this is something that I would like to highlight as well.
Thank you, Domenica.
Yeah, I just wanted to link back to your question and the context you gave for that, there are some leaders who are posting like AI generated stuff, or you talk to someone online or you observe their content online and you talk to them in real life and they are not the same person. So I think like one of the reasons for why we get like this abundance of content is that we also have multiple communication channels those days. And with it's scale up exponentially, that you have channels and then you have people using them. And obviously with that, the ratio of content that's good, so the content that's a bit trashy is growing as well. So I think we also just see more, and we're also much more demanding, and we also have very short attention span. So our expectations towards what's being published is that everything what we come across is flawless or is perfect or provide instant value or instant information. And I think that what creates also a bit of pressure on people who are posting. And to be honest, I don't blame like executives that they're using AI. It's like a tool that they've discovered.
No, it's not a problem.
No. But just to just to comment on that is that I know it's not a problem, but in the way that like you're running a major company, then you have your communication team that's like in your ear, like constantly asking you why you're not posting 3 times a day on 5 p.m. on Tuesday or whatever, and then you also have this content, this article to contribute to, and then you discover this mighty ChatGPT or Cloud or any other model that can do this job that you really don't have heart for, of writing
and you're
posts.
saved.
Exactly, you're saved. But this is not only you, they are like dozens of other executives who think the same way. So I think we're also in a funny time when we only learn how to use these tools and how to really make the most of it. And we'll see this like copy-paste type of a content, because people are also learning how to prompt chats and how to talk to them. And I think in the long run, it can be a useful tool for people who even posting content that is, let's say, like has more input from them than from AI specifically, that they can use it to accelerate the pace of production and to be a bit of a co-pilot for them. So I think it can be an interesting way to improve or to streamline content production. But when it comes to building personal brand for executives, so I've been working with Moritz Maurer, who's the founder of Grid, and Michael Westerling, who's chief sales officer and the co-founder of the company. And I must admit that it's been quite easy for me because they kind of invented the space, So it's very different once you work with someone who operates in such a niche, and then it's about amplifying what they've already achieved and the trust they've built. So they are different sectors, and I think what Katya said is very much spot on, that you need to find your niche and you really need to understand what is your contribution to the industry, because like in the long run, there is so much content and there is so many opportunities to be at the event, on the panels, and any different communication channel you can leverage for yourself, that to finding this niche and to really like stripping down the topic that you will represent, because we can be tempted to kind of speak about everything and have an opinion on anything. But at the end of the day, there'll be many people like us, and it's very much the strength is in being really helpful and in being very competent and knowledgeable on the topic you're contributing on, and then consistently just finding the right opportunities and the places where you really can contribute, not only be seen, because these are two things that sometimes can be mistakenly taken as the same thing, and they're not. So
Oh, I don't know if you guys attended our session this morning or the viewers have, but man, I do need to find a different public because I have 22,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I post from like Katya mentioned that you need to post about latest news, stuff like that. I do that. We have about 300 news published per day in different industries. Among them, of course, iGaming industry, blockchain, fintech, AI, stuff like that. But every time I post the news, I get about 10, 15 likes. But every time I post something funny, like a meme, I get like 200, 300, 500.
Yeah.
So I probably need to change myself into a comedian or do some sort of a acting stuff, because that's not my niche out there, because most probably the followers are not following me for the latest news, even if we post about our conference. So guys, have you ever tried juggling?
Badly, not for a while.
All right. So in
Physical
my opinion,
juggling, no.
yeah, in my opinion, promoting your personal brand while also representing a company is just like that. Just maybe that's like doing with those flaming torches, because it can go sideways any minute. So on one hand, you have the flashy personal brand, of course. On the other hand, you have the company's steady image you need to keep. So how do you keep both in the air if a theory disaster comes? So my question is, how do you balance promoting your personal brand with representing the company that you work for? Claire.
Yeah. For me, it's I might have a slightly different answer to the ladies because I haven't been in a big corporate environment for actually a really long time. I've worked for startups and really kind of smaller companies. And so I think for those that are working for, publicly listed companies and things like that, they're just going to follow a different set of rules and a different set of protocol. And I'm sure that there is a level that, every different opportunity perhaps has to be presented to management, and you discuss the opportunity and how does that look. Your name is featured alongside the company name, and I'm sure there is a process that has to be followed for that. I just unfortunately can't speak to it. My experience from starting as a complete newbie in the industry, in the affiliate space, and working my way up, I have worked in corporate companies, but on the smaller scale. But and then obviously running the affiliate network was brand new, and I came to the realization one day that every opportunity that I had found, and I built a really great connection through Clarion and Gambling Insider and all of the media outlets, and I kept presenting them to the bosses. I'm like, here, I've got this great opportunity. Do you want to speak at this? And do you want to write this article? Or sometimes I'd even write articles or press releases with their name on them. And I just one day kind of sat there and thought, I've been building this great reputation quietly and behind the scenes, and writing articles or getting all of these opportunities, and I'm rightly or wrongly, but I'm handing them to management. And one day I was like, oh, by the way, I've got this, and I just started kind of rebranding stuff to myself. So I kept it in the tone of the business, and I was very a few times I would send them to either the owners or the like management, and be like, hey, I've had this opportunity, this is what I've done, can you just sign it off? And then obviously it became different because I started running my own consultancy, so I didn't really have to answer to a brand, and so I could represent myself and my own company, and I could pick and choose the opportunities that I had. And what I wanted, like we talked about previously, is about finding my niche and finding the things that I'm passionate about and I feel confident about and I feel like I have an authority on because of my experience, and that's where I would find what I wanted to do. But it is definitely a tough balance, I think, for those that are moving up the ranks and when there is a hierarchy in place. And I think it's how you approach that, perhaps to the management and the ownership, and say, what, because there might be something that you're presented with that actually doesn't fit you. So you're like, I'm not quite sure what I want to write about. I'm not quite sure how to answer this. And actually it is better suited to somebody else within the team or the company. But where you feel like it's a great topic for you, definitely be, I would say to anybody that has been hesitant about that, is be a bit brave and kind of present that. If there is a hierarchy, present that and say, hey, I've had this opportunity. I'm speaking from my perspective, but as a representative of XYZ company, our company. So that would be my advice and my personal kind of experience from working for companies and myself. And yeah, being that quiet, naive and nervous person that would give everything away and even write it under other people to go, actually, I'm now at a place where I've built my reputation quietly behind the scenes that I feel like I'm in a good place to publicly do so. So that would be my advice.
But you change your name and now people don't recognize you.
I know. Yeah, it's a very tricky one.
All right,
I've got to
Katja.
wait for the shows to do that, to stay out there. Sorry, Katja.
I think that by striking balance between promoting your personal brand and representing your company, you can effectively leverage your personal platform to enhance both your own reputation and the one of your employer, because this is very important. Also, now I'm studying my second master in intellectual property and technology transfer. So for me, it's very important to support the company branding guidelines. This is very important nowadays, to respect the intellectual property rights and to avoid using logos, trademark, or whatever in your personal branding efforts without permission. Also, I think it's very important to maintain professionalism in a way to avoid, let's say, engaging or controversial and polarizing topics which can affect or reflect poorly on yourself or your employer. It is very important to clearly define between personal and professional content on your social media as well, to make it clear when you're speaking on behalf of yourself versus representing your company. Or whenever in doubt, you can always ask and of course you can seek guidance if you are not sure. So this is very important, to stay true to who you are while stay professional to your employer and maintain this high level of professionalism.
All right, thank you. Domenica.
I think for me, it's very much about finding the common denominator for yourself and the brand or the company you work with. So for me, working at Grid is very much innovation. So Grid represents innovation in the space of collecting data and distributing data, and also establishing esports as a sport within the betting ecosystem and the gaming ecosystem. And for me, I've like almost a decade ago, I worked at video game studios, and then I worked at Huawei, and I was responsible for go-to-market for the gaming strategy in CE. So always at the forefront of something that like wasn't really defined or was innovative, or was kind of like checking the new space. So for me, it's always about like finding these common denominators and the traits that you have in common with the brand that you're working at, and also the ones that are true to yourself, and then creating a consistent narrative and a personality that can be associated with these specific traits, and the brand is just like the extension of your personal brand, let's say. So it looks, let's say, not even credible, because like credibility comes from even different things, but it looks consistent the way you represent yourself and you represent brand, and you're not like personality switching a little bit. So I speak at a lot of conferences about the use of AI or in video games, or the collaborations between video games and fashion, and these are not like directly related to my work at Grid, but they are related to the field of innovation within the video game space and within the technology space. And I think that's what's been working for me quite well so far.
All right, so now we talk about the recipe of becoming a thought leader that we would like to call wayseers, right? So these guys are always are at the forefront of everything. So what's the recipe, guys? So do you need to write some very insightful blog posts, or do you do some landing splashy media spots, or you grab a mic at the conference? Maybe you collect some awards, or just flood the social media with wisdom. So my question for you guys is what types of content have you found to be most impactful in establishing yourself as a leader within the iGaming community, and is it the case of securing coverage with media publications, and also speaking engagements, awards, social media, and perhaps combination of everything that I've mentioned? Because Claire, you mentioned about media publication and securing reach throughout this type of promotion. So what's your thought on this?
Yeah, I mean, that was my personal experience. So I've done lots of different articles over the years for all the different publications, standalone articles, as well as quite often they'll do Q&As. So Q&As are always very good as well. And they do, so publications online and offline, they do like collaborations. So there'll be 3 people that they'll kind of interview, or that will write their thoughts on a particular topic. And that's quite good as well, because you can get your name alongside somebody, you know, of an equal level, as a more senior level. And I think that helps with your branding, right? So if you're, and I'm going to speak from my experience, but if you're just a entry level, or just an affiliate manager, you're not a team lead, you're not a senior or head of, you may then be in an article or in a Q&A alongside head of marketing or VP of marketing. And I think that enhances your personal branding, that enhances your credibility, because your voice is, as you know what I mean, featured alongside somebody at that caliber. So I think from my experience, that's been really, really beneficial from my branding. I do a slightly less at the minute on LinkedIn, but I do see the value of that. But I do think I'll post when I feel like I've got something important to talk about. And as VP of development with Soroka, we've now bringing something new to the market. So actually, I'm using LinkedIn a little bit more for that. When it comes to affiliate marketing, I'll post when I feel like I've got something relevant. And then I use my socials. So my personal socials like Facebook, Instagram. I have both a personal and a professional, and I post on both. And actually, I've got industry professionals on both that I've built up a community over the last near on 20 years, which I hate saying. So yeah, I've done that. And also I'm a judge on the IGB Affiliate Awards, and have been for many years. So I think that, you know, if you are asked or feel like you have a way in with some of the awards, that could be an opportunity for people as well. There's many different awards through the industry. You know, you have the EGR, you have the SBC, there's awards everywhere. So I think that's also a way to really make your mark and make your name known. If you're a judge, it comes with a certain credibility as well. So I've been very honoured to be asked for the last, I'm not sure how many years. I'm not sure how many it's been, but many years. Speaking engagements, for me personally, it's not really my comfort zone. I love these online sessions. I do love them. I do less face-to-face panels. That's just my personal preference, but I know that they can be incredibly powerful for brand awareness, personal brand awareness.
It also depends on the size of the conference, but also depends on the quality of the content, because there are some large conferences like the SBC out there. Maybe the content is not that good as at our conferences. All right, I'm just kidding. Okay, Katja, what's your take on my question?
Well, I'm trying to secure as much coverage with media outlets as I can. But what I feel is my power are those in-depth industry analysis when it comes to game development, new trends, also trademarking a game mechanic, let's say, or something which is very specific, and this is my niche. Of course, I'm trying sometimes also to post some educational content so that I can better communicate with my peers and share insights like guides or tutorials or how-to articles and so on. But it's really important also to go in depth, like with case studies, with success stories. And this is something which takes a lot of time and expertise. It's easy to post news or something, but when you go in depth, it takes time. So you have to go through the latest analysis online to make your own analysis over and to post it and to communicate it in the best way possible. So I think this is really, really important and makes you more visible when it comes to analysis.
All right, thank you. Domenica.
Well, I think that if you want to build a personal brand and really make it successful, the X factor, let's say, is to remember that you speak to people and that this is not just, a business goal to reach, 10K followers or be seen in all the media outlets or they have this badge or whatever. But it's also about like being a genuinely good person who helps people on the topic that you feel competent about. And if you have that as a foundation, then like personal brand will come naturally if you start getting involved in these initiatives and don't say no to opportunities. So don't wait for this one opportunity that you came up with 5 years ago is the thing you want to do, and ever since then you've been saying no to any other thing that comes down the line. Bigger, smaller outlet or smaller publication, it's always a practice, and it always helps you to get better at communicating your vision and communicating your expertise. Obviously, also not to go an extremely on the other side that you're like essentially everywhere, but be mindful about that as well. But I think being good at what you're doing, and then remembering that in the end you're talking to people and and the industry is made out of, it's a group of people, right? So they will have opinion on you, and they will develop some sort of affinity or likeness, or they'll prefer to spend time with you or not. That very much comes down to how you treat people and how you treat these relationships you build down the line. And without that, personal branding, we talk only about positive personal brands, let's say, but it's also very easy to kind of build a brand for yourself that is not that favorable. And it mostly is done through actions that are not really empathetic and are not really rooted in genuine need to, or genuine willingness to contribute positively to the industry, but rather put yourself in the spotlight. So yeah, I think that's being good and respect people is what can get you a long way.
Yeah, talk about personal branding. Next up, the session after this is going to be the US update, the traditional one. And I see Bill already joined. Now there's a guy who doesn't need an introduction. You don't even remember the company he works at. You know that it's Bill Pascrell.
Good morning.
I think we're meeting at SBC North America this week.
Yes.
See?
Yes.
Like I told you.
Yes.
All right, so here is an advice to all those that are feeling jittery about speaking and stepping up to the microphone and throwing their hat in the ring at award ceremonies and stuff like that. It's like being backstage before a big show and you feel all those nervous things coming up. So everyone is nervous at the first time they step on stage, but what's the trick to stepping into the spotlight without tripping over your own feet? That's one of the questions. And let's unpack some of the tips to help you shake off these nerves and strives confidently on stage. Or maybe even if you're accepting an award somewhere. We've seen that happen a lot of times. Some people just go on stage for the first time to accept an award. They don't know what to say. They're filled with emotions either way, not to mention the fact that they are first time speaking in public. So I think that there were some studies that said that at least 75% of the planet have a bigger fear of speaking in public than dying. So that's something very interesting. So after all, every leader had to start with their first speech somewhere or their first nomination. So my question, and Bill, you can join in as well. What advice would you give to those who may be apprehensive, nervous about taking part in speaking engagements and putting themselves forward at awards, maybe at conferences? So Claire, you go first.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what we've said this entire session is just about kind of finding your niche and being authentic. And I think once you're in that zone of your genius and what you excel at, that breeds confidence. And the second key is preparation, right? So if you're going to a panel or a session or doing anything publicly, accepting an award, for example, or nominating yourself for an award, have that confidence, have that preparation, speak to whoever's moderating the panel, make sure you have most of the panels have that like pre-meeting as well, where you get to meet the other panelists, you get to run through all of the questions ahead of time. And if there's something you don't feel confident, I was on a panel years ago at G2E, and it was my first panel at G2E, so I was super nervous. I was kind of a step on, so it wasn't my panel originally. And I went through the moderator's questions and I said, please don't direct these three at me because I cannot speak to them. It's something completely out of my remit. It was nothing I'd ever covered. And I was very honest about that. And I said, I'm going to fail, and this panel's going to just tank, and it's going to be terrible. And I want to give the people that are sitting here, spending their time listening to us, actually the answers they're looking for. So and it worked really well. He made a note. He was a great moderator, and it worked. The fact that I was honest about it, it made my kind of stress and anxiety reduce a little. And I studied the questions, and I'm like, okay, which ones am I answering? Making sure that I had in my head all the mental notes. If you turn up unprepared, your nerves are definitely going to be sky high. You're not sure what's going to happen. You're not sure what to say. So that would be my biggest tip, is make sure you absolutely prepare for any opportunities, ask questions, speak to the panelists, even if you're not, you have that initial pre-panel conversation. If you're still nervous, call the moderator, call some of the panelists, do your homework, do your research on who you're with, look them up on LinkedIn. Absolutely, that is the biggest recommendation that I have to reduce that anxiety and your nerves.
Now I feel bad that we don't do this type of preparation calls. Every time people ask me, let's do preparation, I said, no, let's go with the flow. And here we are, doing it naturally, right? So, yes. Katja, what's your take on this? And in the meantime, sorry to interrupt you, Martin Lichka has also joined. So Martin, you can also have your take on this. I will ask you the question a bit later. Katja.
I completely agree with what Claire already mentioned. Maybe I would like to add that I'm constantly challenging myself while building my personal brand together with my company brand. So it is very important to get prepared, but also to stay true to who you are, to what you believe in. When you are true to your values, to the values of your company, when you are true to your company culture, you cannot make big mistakes. So get prepared, stay true to who you are, and constantly challenge yourself, because this is the way we are getting better and better in what we are doing.
All right. Thank you so much. Domenica. You're on mute. Wow. It's been a long time.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. So there's not, but there's also so wouldn't be that much of an issue if I stay muted. But I think it's mostly about like getting prepared, and then don't overthink it. If you're already on the stage, or you already commit to contribution to any sort of content or panel or any other form of public presence or exposure, then just go with it. And as Katja said as well, if you're really good at this and you really stay true to your values, then really not that many things can go wrong. So I think that's the secret recipe.
All right, I think it's high time to tell you guys that we have around 800 viewers on the multiple platforms. So I hope you're not nervous about this because it's the end of the session. But Bill, what's your take on this? What advice would you give to people that are nervous at speaking at conferences? What's your best? Be American? Is that your first advice, maybe?
No, no, that's not my first advice. First of all, hello to everyone. Dominic, I'm looking forward to seeing you later. Martin Lichka is a dear friend. What we love about Hipter and your organization, Zoltan, is that you're real. And when you're real and you're yourself and you be yourself and not try to be something you're not, try to be an actor, if you will. None of us are actors or professional. You know, I'm fortunate because I grew up in a home which was a political home. My father's a politician. And the biggest compliment I ever get paid, and I don't say it happens often, like my dad's a great speaker and he's real, right? 30 member of the US Congress, but he's real when you see him. Martin has met him before. So I've taken, when I used to sit on my dad's knee when he would give speeches when I was 5 and 6, I've taken all that knowledge. And then I became an attorney and a litigator. So, you know, when you litigate, the most important thing is, and you're learning as you hear a lot of talk about it during this Trump criminal trial, for every hour you're in the courtroom, you need 10 hours of preparation. So think about like a 3-week trial, how much time that takes. And you can never over prepare, right? If you know your stuff and you're prepared and you speak from the heart and you speak the truth, that's it. It's not more complicated. What I don't like, but I have to do it a lot, is these pre-panel calls. We never do it with you, Zoltan, but Mark has to do them all the time, right? And they're just, I mean, I was told 20 years ago by a producer for a national broadcast. I was on it. It was called CN8 Comcast, all over the country in 100 million homes. And what they said to me is, Bill, when you're live, you're awesome. But when you're taped, you're not as good. And because when you're live, you feel like you're engaging. And when you're taped, you're just staring at the camera lens thinking, this is silly, right? So that's my vulnerability, right? Taping something, it doesn't give me the juice. Like I love the live stage. Zooms are a little bit different, although they're live. Sometimes they're pre-recorded, right? And go. And then the final point is just remember where you're at, the audience, whether you're in Prague or Lisbon or London or New York, where some of us will be today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Understand that it's not all the same. If you're doing a panel in Australia, it's very different than doing a panel in New York City. There are some commonalities. Respect the culture, personalize and localize your presentation. And as long as you know what you're talking about, okay, I don't like pre-scripted questions because I just feel, I like the surprise, like Martin will break my chops and he'll throw a zinger out there because he knows, like, I'll get through it. The final point, when JFK, John F. Kennedy, was prepping for his first debate, his father, Joe Kennedy, who was the bootlegger, liquor bootlegger in America, he was prepping his son. And so the question was, well, what happens if they ask me this question? Or what happens if they ask me that question? And Joe Kennedy had the best line, and I embrace it. I don't care what the question is, here's the answer. You need to be able to pivot to your core values, right? And I'm not saying if somebody asks you what's your favorite color, you tell them, well, I like the New York Yankees, right? That's not what I'm saying. But like, don't be afraid. My son, Billy, who Martin knows, is now the general counsel for an Australian public company in the gaming industry, horse racing and sports betting. Billy did his first panel last August. His grandfather was in the room. I was in the room. It was a pretty big crowd. There were about 300 people. And I could tell he was nervous. But like, once you do that first one, Now he's like into doing another one, right? He never wanted to do it because he's a bit humble, not obnoxious like his father. I just think be real and understand the worst thing you can do is just go like this and parrot out some lines without some passion. Because you should be able to get passionate about what you do if you believe in it.
All right, thank you so much. Martin, so we have been talking with Claire, Domenica, and Katja about building your personal brand. So among these questions, the final question which Bill also answered is what advice could you give to those iGaming executives who may be apprehensive, nervous about talking at speaker engagement for their first time or maybe even for their second time, who knows?
Well, first of all, hello everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Suppose the answer clearly is get yourself locked in a room with Bill Pasquale III for about a week. It will all rub off you and you'll be as smooth as it gets when it comes to public
We don't
speaking.
have that luck.
Yeah, there are not many people who would, absolutely. On a slightly more serious note, and apologies, I'm not privy to your full conversation, but I believe, and in my personal experience, it's a matter of practice. I recall doing my very first conference back in the day, some 14, 15 years ago, the first panel. That also shows my age, sadly. It was the Central Eastern European Gaming Summit out in Sofia, a great place. And I sat down, and to Bill's point, I also enjoy freestyling it. And in a few minutes, I'm sure you will give Bill and me another opportunity to show you some of the freestyling that we performed here before. But as soon as I sat down, the fright stage, if you will, kicked in, and I'm sat there. It's like jitters. What am I doing now? Plus, English is not my mother tongue, and since then I've had a ton of practice, and here comes the word again. I believe it's practice on top of everything you guys and ladies have already said. Stay true to who you are. Don't try to be what and who you're not, and try to the extent you can to enjoy yourselves, because the other and final piece of advice that I'd give, if I may, is that you would typically get to ask to talk about what you do. So you would tend to live it and breathe it. So I would strongly suggest that helps. I suppose all of us have been on panels where we had no or next to no clue about. In my case, typically the likes of data protection. Well, there are ways of pivoting away from it, or you can brush up some of the basics, but then talk about something, try to bring in the context and move it to somewhere where you feel comfortable. It's a very long story short, not as short as Bill's, of course, or long, rather. It's a matter of practice, in my view. So if you get an opportunity, even if you may not feel comfortable, to Bill's example about Billy the Fourth, just take the opportunity, and I would believe in a very small number of cases, some folks will prove to themselves that this is not their cup of tea or coffee, depending on your preference. I reckon most people will just ease themselves into it, and they will enjoy doing it. You may not have to be doing it every other week, but perhaps, once a quarter, when there's a conference and an opportunity, to your point, and I will shut up right now, to keep building your personal brand while helping your business or the business you're with to build their brand.
All right. Thank you, Martin. It's very interesting that 10 years ago was the first panel I've moderated, and Martin was in it in Sofia. So very interesting to have this type of input. Okay, so Claire, Domenica, Katja, any closing words for our audience before we switch the mic to Bill and Martin for their US market update?
Yeah, from me, closing words of advice is be confident, be true, be authentic, and be brave, right? We all started somewhere. Everyone started somewhere. So you're not different in that respect. We all had nerves. We all needed to grow and build our brand. So yeah, keep plugging away and just try and push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, a little by little, and miracles and amazing things can happen and come your way.
All right, thank you, Katja.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I'm really happy that Martin mentioned that we have to enjoy what we are doing at the end, because staying true to who you are, believe in yourself, challenge yourself, get prepared. Those are really important things. But at the end, we have to enjoy what we are doing, because whenever you are working your dream job, you're doing what you love to do, you're always successful. This is the way to success.
All right, thank you, Domenica.
Yeah, just have fun doing this and like enjoy building your personal brand. And like I think personal brand generally comes after you're good at something. So if you're good at something and if you're on the panel and let's say you're in iGaming industry, there's a very low likelihood of you being on the panel on biotechnology, you know. So if you're on the panel that you have something to say about, you'll definitely do well. So like don't doubt yourself, like be the first person that believes in yourself, and then have fun working and then building your brand. And yeah, that works, I think.
Thank you so much. And if I want to add that one of my great friend Jason Forte, former professional basketball player, said that we each tie our shoes the same way. So don't worry about somebody being ahead of you or not. So thank you for this great session, and let's stay in touch for the continuation of this panel, maybe for another occasion. So I will now move the virtual microphone to the next session, which is going to be a freestyle, like Martin said. Thank you, Claire, Katja, and Domenica.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Bye.
All right, so Martin, Bill, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Zoltan. Thanks for having us back. Sadly, we've lost our quarterback, Mr. Jeremy Kleiman, today for emergency reasons. Let me assure you that Jeremy and his family are okay. Jeremy just needs to attend to a few matters. Always a pleasure. We'll do some of the freestyling that I have already alluded to and do our best together with one of my dearest friends, Mr. Bill Pasquale III. Will try to bring you up to speed with the latest developments in the US market. Because I can't resist that temptation, before we do that, Zoltan's really sent me down the memory lane because he talked about a panel out in Eastern Europe some 10 years ago. And I just realized that today I'm sat in my New York City office. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying it that to show how times can change throughout the years, and that we definitely, to Katja's point, I believe it was just, we all have to work really hard, but let's have fun as well. So I hope to wrap up this introduction that you'll have a lot of fun with Bill and me, and perhaps, because we've lost Jeremy as our moderator, my first question to Bill, and Bill, shall we play a bit of a ping pong? So I'll ask you a question, you'll ask me a question. We've done this before. So what's your take on the latest developments in the arena of sports betting regulation? Because quite frankly, without stealing your thunder, there's not that much to talk about this year, is there? You're on mute.
Martin, always a pleasure. Zoltan, thank you for having us. Yeah, I mean, there's always something to talk about, but you know, in years past where we're having dozens of states come on board, 2023 was one of the biggest impactful states because we had, you know, over a dozen states come online. This year, it's only been North Carolina on the sports side, and obviously Rhode Island on the iGaming side, the 7th state to do iGaming in America. North Carolina had a great launch in March. It's doing well. It's scaling. And it's been, you know, a good start going into now the 3rd month. There are very few opportunities because, as you know, Martin, legislative sessions are coming to a close. The two sort of what we'll say trophy states, the brass rings, if you will, California, which is the 8th largest economy and the most populous state, and Texas are not going to happen this year. Texas, just because of the legislative calendar, they meet every other year. So there was no chance for Texas to go this year. And then thankfully and mercifully, the yet again failed attempt to put another ballot question on the California ballot failed because the tribes jumped on it. We've talked about this so many times, the $600 million campaign to bring sports betting to California. Not only did it fail, but it failed miserably, garnering only 18% of the vote. I think some of the more likely states, which we can talk about, sort of, that are in the queue, I believe, are states like Oklahoma, Missouri, I think have really good opportunity. I also think Minnesota has a wonderful opportunity. Georgia, unfortunately, has moved on. Governor Brian Kemp is supportive of it, but the legislature wasn't able to get it across the goal line. And you know what? I mean, that only benefits two channels. It benefits the black market and it benefits the surrounding states. So fortunately, there's other states like Alabama, which are more of a far reach, but there's not many. What do we have? Like maybe 8 states to go. More than 2/3 of the country have legalized sports betting of some form, both retail and online.
And I believe that's exactly the point. I will not name any names, but there's a colleague of mine, another dear friend at Entain, in a different context relating to Europe. But once we'd gotten some 15 European jurisdictions done and we had to move on to tackle the remaining ones, his famous line rang, well, we've done the easy ones, if you will, so we've only got the difficult ones to contest. And I agree with what Bill has just said. If some north of 30 states had by now regulated mobile or, if you will, online internet forms of gambling, even more have done internet or retail. So there are not that many states left. Of course, what is slightly upsetting, including on the pure business side of things, is the fact, going back to another point Bill has just made, that California and Texas are yet to regulate. Indeed, in Texas, it's a bit of a quirk in the legislative system, so we'll have another chance. Next year, we've discussed this matter at this forum before. It's been clear throughout that the Texas-based sports franchises, just like in most, if not all other places, are supportive of legislation. We just need to, I suppose, bring the Texas Lieutenant Governor with us, who's always been the one who called the shots on this. Regarding California, it's a matter of finding a way to have an efficient and productive debate with the tribes, because nationwide, the tribes have, if you will, and for want of better expression, scored a few victories lately, including on the federal level. So quite a few of them, I would suspect, might be looking at the developments in Florida with a keen eye, asking themselves the question whether that's something, I'm sure that that's something they may want to, but could they replicate it? So that will need to be factored in. And when it comes to the other states that Bill has mentioned, in misery, I think the misery, if you pardon the pun, is the fact that rather annoyingly for me, I suppose for Bill as well, the Chiefs keep winning the Super Bowl. So the good old Missourians might be quite jealous of their neighbors across the border in Kansas. And of course, Kansas City sits right at the border, that in Kansas they are allowed to bet on their beloved Chiefs, whereas in Missouri, not yet. So all jokes aside, that genuinely may be part of the motivation. And then we've got the likes of the Southern Belt, where religious considerations, I suppose, other cultural idiosyncrasies are coming into play. Plus, there are practical issues, like, for example, and as a European, originally, I'm still learning about all this. To give you but one example, the Georgian legislative session, or the legislative session in Georgia, not to confound it with the state of Georgia, out in the Republic of Georgia, out in Europe, is extremely short. So those poor sods have a very, very brief window of opportunity to get it done, and they tend to be up against rather stiff resistance and opposition from certain quarters. They're supposed to move on to gaming, as Bell's already pointed out, like snowball's chance in hell, very sadly, that any additional state will have regulated iGaming, or if you will, online poker and casino this year, which to my mind begs the question why that is. Now, here in New York, I suppose it comes down to Governor Hochul and her staff and the New York State Gaming Commission focusing on the downstate casinos, or in human speak, most likely New York City casinos. But clearly, Bill, there are bound to be other reasons. So do you think that it's still the case that, unlike sports betting, online casino doesn't have as powerful a narrative behind it? And if you agree with that premise, what would we need to do to change that? Should we take stock of what has been done? Because a lot of efforts have been invested, and in the run-up to the next year's legislative sessions, figure out whether we need to change tack, or whether we need to bake in additional arguments, or what other paths we could take to finally get more than those 7 or 8 states regulated on the iGaming side of things. So what would be your take?
First of all, there's only 8 states, Missouri, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, California, and Texas that haven't legalized sports betting. And I think some of those states will eventually move. A lot of them, which hinge on Southern conservative votes, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who's the head of the Senate and the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, 2 sessions in a row in 21 and 23, was willing to move forward. But if the votes aren't there, you don't want to put a vote up and it fail, because you not only need 2/3 votes, the House has passed it twice, but you also need to put it on the ballot. So if they were to get it done in the session next year in Texas, which would be great, they would then have to put it on a ballot in November. So the earliest they could launch would be 2026. The good news was last year, Florida launched. So that's the 3rd largest state in the nation. To get to your conversation about iGaming, if you go back 10, 11 years ago when Jersey launched and then Delaware and Nevada with poker only, I would have thought by now we would have had 20 some odd states. But without being too critical, and I won't single anyone out, the industry bears a large responsibility for not being able to come together and make a powerful argument. I think we have a very strong case to make. Jobs, customer protection, responsible gaming, and the fact that there is such a huge amount of black market gambling online, that the only way to penetrate it is to legalize it and then be able to monitor what goes on to protect the player, and then also incentivize the operators to give information on how to best attack the black market, the Bovados and the Bodogs of the world, which are continuing to do quite well. Rhode Island launching this year, they had a successful launch. Is a bit of a small state. It's like the size of a county in most states, like New Jersey or New York. New York last year wanted to push iGaming. Senator Adabo, who and Assemblyman Pretlow have bills pending again this year. But unfortunately, there are certain things in New York's culture of politics. Governor Hochul is not against it, but there's only so much oxygen in the political room. Last year, it was the $440 million to upgrade Belmont, which is a great racetrack owned by Naira. So Naira was focused on that. A lot of the legislature and the governor was focused on that. Now, coming into this year, it's, as Martin has said, the 3 downstate casinos. You know, in the south of the state, the New York metropolitan area, if you will, there's going to be 3 casinos awarded. They were supposed to be site selections done last year. It doesn't even look like they'll be able to get it done this year, although I'm hopeful. But a lot of people think that's just an excuse. But I think what the industry needs to do a better job of, and there are the folks like Howard Glazer, who's been leading a charge for Light and Wonder to try to push it across the top. You know, the number of jobs that have been created in the sister state of New Jersey to New York to date is 6,842 jobs. And a lot of those jobs are related to live dealer experiences. And so, you know, every day that goes by that New York doesn't pass it, who benefits? The black market and the bordering states of Connecticut, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So, I mean, I am not optimistic about much happening this year, although it's always nice to get surprised. The other state that I put at the top of the heap, possibly for next year, is Illinois. The regulators really want it. It seems like the administration, the governor's office wants it, and they just have to get it across the goal line. But, you know, what happens, Martin, is a lot of the operators feel like their government relations folks can just go in, and they tend to talk about distractions, about anti-competitive issues, which really not helpful. That's why creating more of an industry message is very helpful, and why I am hopeful that we'll be able to come together and make 2025 the year of iGaming.
Fingers crossed. I suppose Illinois is a great example, because I'm sure a lot of folks here will be aware of the fact that the governor, and it's legislature-led state. So the governor, who I'm oversimplifying, but effectively the Illinois governor pretty much only has the power to make a proposal for the legislature, for the assembly to consider, but the governor put forth a proposal whereby the tax rate applicable to sports betting would go up significantly. So that, and let's see if that formula could be replicated in other states, that could be a trade-off here. Leave our sports betting tax rates alone and regulate the other product vertical if what you're after, to Bill's point, is A, sustainable tax revenue from a widened market, plus high consumer protection standards that will ultimately help drive out the black market, and also by implication to make it circular and go back to government costs and expenditure, alleviate the pressure on the health system, because the license operators, they do care for their customers and they do provide them with responsible gambling tools. So we're clearly getting slightly more granular, but I suppose before we go even deeper down that route, the only other point I would add to what Bill has already said, and I suppose we might have a strong tendency to forget about that, because sadly the Trump-related stories suck all the oxygen out of the room. So yes, there's a presidential election this year, but there also will be quite a few governor's races. There's the Congress election as well. So that all this has had and will have had, at least in my opinion, a bearing on the priorities of the individual state. In other words, and perhaps in human speak, some of them may be inclined to shy away from doing in the super election year something that may be perceived as rather controversial, i.e., I would disagree, but some folks perceive it like that, regulating iGaming. So there will be some kind of calculus behind it or a strategy. Oh, can I really score many brownie points? Hey, will this really get me many votes? And the answer might be no, but the smarter amongst the decision makers, and there are plenty of them out there, needless to say, if and when they get re-elected, to Bill's other point, 25 and beyond, 26, 27, and well, 28 will be the same super election story. That may be an opportunity to get things done. I suppose going back to, if I may, my point about granularity, I'm sure a lot of you would have followed all the issues related to the likes of proposition bets in connection with college sports markets and some of the sports integrity issues that have befallen the industry. So my next question, and this is true freestyling, we haven't really rehearsed it, but I'm sure Bill will have the answers as usual. So my next question, Bill, if I may, relates to Charlie Baker's. So Charlie Baker, for arguably very few, if anyone here, but Charlie Baker happens to preside the National Collegiate Athletics Association at the moment, the former governor of Massachusetts, of course, my spiritual sporting home. What's your take, Bill, on Charlie Baker's efforts to not stamp out proposition bets on college sports, then severely restrict them? And what has been the reaction of the states that have already considered his proposal?
Yeah, well, former Governor Charlie Baker, who's a really smart man, I think he felt he was pushed into a corner with the likes of some of the integrity scandals facing collegiate basketball and professional leagues. But I think it's much like Martin, what we've gone through with Congressman Tonko's bill. Congressman Tonko hails from upstate New York, represents the Saratoga area where the racetrack is. He's a mental health leader, concerned about mental health, and he dropped a bill last year to ban advertising in sports. Martin and I were one of the few that respected him and went and met with him, and then I debated him in Saratoga in August of last year, and he's now pulled back on that bill and has announced just a few short weeks ago he's going to introduce another bill, which I think will be more acceptable, but yet I don't think the industry will accept it, and I don't fault them. I think Charlie Baker's announcement has shaken the political system. We now have multiple states who've come across and already banned prop bets. And I'm really not thrilled about the industry's reaction to it. I am a part of the industry, so I'll take my own responsibility. But, it needs a sit down to explain to Governor Baker, look, all you're doing is driving market share to the black market. And if you think prop bet bans is going to help with integrity or with responsible gaming, you're wrong, because we're going to drive more folks to the black market, and we're not even going to understand what's going on, because you tend to have better data and better integrity when you've legalized and regulated it. I know the story about Otani, and that was black market. That was discovered through the federal government and bank fraud. But the prop bet ban bill or proposal to ban prop bets, which a couple of states have done already, is really disturbing, because all it hurts are the vulnerable and the sports betting operators who have spent zillions of dollars on getting licensed. And it benefits the black market. So, I mean, why that message hasn't gone out there a little bit stronger, I think we need to get ahead of it. As we creep into the summer, where we're going to have the two national conventions, that'll be where the attention is. Most of the legislatures will be on break anyway. So I think we need to spend May to December vociferously advocating for this terrible idea. The best of intentions sometimes do not result in really good policy. The pathway to hell is paved by good intentions oftentimes.
Yeah, absolutely. If I may, in a similar vein, because Bill's touched upon the betting scandals outside of NCAA's precinct that have befallen the leagues. So first of all, I would fully concur with the view, because sadly there are folks out there who would beg to differ and, in my opinion, erroneously believe that the regulation is the root cause of these scandals. Well, actually, in my personal opinion, the fact that the markets have been or are being regulated have gone a long way towards preventing a lot of these scandals from even happening. And if that's not possible, may not always be watertight. Believe you me, we all have very robust systems in place. Then these scandals have been on the back of the regulation detected and are being addressed. And what I've also found very compelling is the reaction of the leagues. If you look at the NHL, and great for him, Shane Pinto, well, they're out of the playoffs, so they haven't even qualified, but he's come back. He's playing yet again, so fingers crossed. He's learned his lesson. It's great to see him back on the ice rink, but on the back of his rather ill-considerate betting activities, he faced 42, so half a season, or rather 41 would be a half a season ban by the NHL. So he had to sit it out. And even more prominently, John Day Parker, the guy who, again, in my opinion, committed the ultimate mortal sin here. He's someone who bet against his own team. So effectively, he sought to throw the game. So he's totally compromised its integrity. He's been banned from the NBA for life. So that's why I'm saying that I found the reaction of the leagues very compelling, and it's actually great to have them on board when it comes to regulation, and then of course ultimately also the commercial side of things, because, and that's a message that I'd like to convey, perhaps at the risk of stating the very obvious. We do need to continue working across the spectrum. We need to continue collaborating. The industry, the customers, the legislators, the regulators, the leagues, the suppliers, everybody involved, and that way kicking it back to Bell, because you've made, as usual, a very good point about the still persistent or still existing black market. And I believe the most efficient way of driving those operators out, besides asking some of the national papers to stop giving shout outs and any room to the likes of Bovada and Boda, but then I'm saying that semi-jokingly, is to come together and continue propounding efficient and effective regulatory schemes. Because then once everybody's in it, of course, commercially speaking, and that's fair enough, this is the way of this world, we all might be at each other's throats, or rather our commercial colleagues need to make money to keep the wheels spinning. But when it comes to these fundamental pillars or principles that underpin the regulated markets, we do need to work together, be it in relation to responsible gambling, sports integrity, anti-money laundering, and so on and so forth, with a view to making the regulated markets, and that's the final point, as robust as possible from the regulator and sustainability perspective, while allowing the market participants to be creative, innovative, and ultimately offer the most entertaining, most attractive, and safest product possible. So that would be the end of this part of my sermon. I suppose Well, shall we perhaps move on to briefly talk about responsible gambling, if you will, or do you want to carry on down the path of talking about the black market a little bit more? Because that, in my view, is the absolutely critical issue that needs to be addressed. And when or as it is being addressed, then we can build up on it. And in parallel, we're going to be deploying all the other protective measures. But in my book, both from the sustainability and the pure economic perspective, the black market operators are the main threat, and they're the ones that siphon up revenue for regulated markets, even regardless of their individual setup.
Well, the problem, I remember having a conversation with a legislator in leadership in a southern state a couple of years ago, and trying to explain, and it's just amazing that the industry hasn't done a better job educating. And then we can pivot to RG. You know, what operators go through, and I'm you know, everybody thinks all the tier one operators are just making massive amounts of money, okay? And that's not the case. What they have to do to get into a legalized, regulated market, AML requirements are extremely expensive. Compliance, licensing, geolocationing, none of these issues the black market has to deal with. You know, each operator is paying geolocation companies bets per click. That's the technology. That's what it costs. But those are millions of dollars just to be able to operate. Now, a substantial part of their business, proposition bets, which is quite profitable in comparison to regular, you know, in-game bets or single game bets, is frustrating because you're only hurting taxes, vulnerable customers, and the legal operators. And there needs to be a whole shift in the debate about black market versus the legal regulated market. And that case has not been made in a great way. That legislator was educated to a bit, and he agreed he didn't understand that. Most folks and most politicians think, oh, you just go on your phone, you click, you put a bet in, there's nothing behind it because it's all virtual. They don't understand the massive costs that go into this in terms of paying people to do the jobs that we just mentioned. The other piece of that is, you know, banning prop bets will have a deleterious effect on responsible gaming, in addition to all the other things we said. And I still believe, and thanks to you, Martin, we're able to get the message out that the most seminal issue for the industry, wherever you stand in the supply chain, whether you're an operator, an affiliate, a payment processing company, a geolocation company, an ML company, a consultant, what have you, a bank, you should be extraordinarily engaged on RG. It's not about just churning and like checking a box so you have an RG 800 number on your website or whatever the regulators require. It's about getting ahead of the curve and learning the lessons of Scandinavia and Germany and the UK and what they've done, because that could be coming here soon. And that won't be good for competition. It won't be good for technology. And it certainly won't be good for consumer protection.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all seen lately an advent of additional responsible gambling focus outfits, be it Roga, the association that the leading US sports books have formed, or the RGAA, the one launched by the affiliates. So certainly, to Bell's point, RG is gaining prominence, and I would suggest that we still have enough time to address the potential challenges and challenges at this forum. We talked before about some of those groups that have landed on US shores and are trying to act, if not against the industry, then against the existing format of regulation. So I would suggest that the answer to that, besides, of course, reaching out to everybody, ultimately, it's always worth having a conversation, even if one ends up agreeing to disagree, is to have a strategic thing about how consumer protection is being approached. Don't get me wrong, a lot has already been done and is being done, and strong programs are in place. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we might need to bake in what's happening outside of, for want of better expression, outside of our bubble, and bake in the fact that not everybody these days might be agreeable to, no matter how foolish we may think that is, might not be agreeable to the idea that this sector does need to be regulated in the way it is being regulated. So in other words, and that applies well beyond consumer protection, all this is a work in progress, but I suppose that would be the final point here, because I suspect, unless Zoltan tells me otherwise, we're hitting the home straight. We might be like 3-minute warning, is it, Zoltan? We're sticking to 11 a.m. Eastern to wrap it up. But the point I was going to make, to link it back to the debate that we've had here about iGaming regulation, there are lots of, at least a handful of legislators out there who would strongly argue that iGaming is prone to the risks of gambling addiction. So it's not just a practical issue, it's not just a regulatory issue, it's also a political issue. So what I'm really trying to say is that it's just all intertwined, and the more we can do to talk, or if you will, shout from the rooftops about the work, the good work the industry has already done. I would hate to be naive here, but the more hearts and minds we can win here. Not this year, as we've discussed, but 25 will be another opportunity. It's not a super election year. I might now be sounding like a broken record, so I suppose I'll kick it back to Belle for a few final thoughts about anything we've talked about today, or the usual crystal ball glazing exercise in the run up to the next. We'll be sitting here, I presume, 3-4 months time from now, because it will be the summer. A lot of us will be on vacation, including legislators and regulators who happen to be human beings as well. I'm saying it in the nicest possible way. So not that much might happen, but what would be, that's the question, Bill, what in your view would be the best use of that rather lull period in the run up to Denver, the winter festivities, but even more importantly, the next legislative season next year? What do we need to do to make the most of 25?
So first of all, next year, there's only 2 elections of any consequence. New Jersey and Virginia have gubernatorial elections always the year after a presidential. So that's the time to move. Nothing's going to happen, well, nor does anything need to happen in New Jersey. Virginia, which is, doing quite well, would be a good place to start to discuss in 26 iGaming. It's not going to happen next year in the middle of a governor's race. I mean, I think the most seminal factor for next year's ability to move forward on either sport or iGaming will be the presidential election. A lot of people aren't thrilled about the 2 choices, but those are the choices you're going to have. And everybody thinks that it's god awful. I hear this every 4 years. People don't like the candidates. Well, those are the candidates you have. If you don't like it, why don't you run? If Biden is reelected, there's a better chance that things will move forward in the industry. If Trump is elected, I believe it will be a disruptor to the industry, and there will be continued chaos, as was the case in his first term. And that's just not just my political opinion. That's been proof. He's not a supporter of some of the things we're working on. What the industry needs to do in the next 8 to 10 months, or 8 to 9 months, is to get ahead of the curve. Come together, start to work collaboratively, get the messaging out, because I believe there's a good, strong message for both the states that remain for sports betting, those 8 states we mentioned earlier, and there's even a more powerful case to be made about the 43 states that haven't come across legalizing and regulating online casino and poker. I mean, Jersey's creating jobs, as is Michigan and West Virginia and Connecticut, Rhode Island, all the states that have done it so far. Jersey's exploding with live dealer. It's a new offering. I'm in the middle of a negotiation right now with a new massive studio that's going to employ several hundred people. That's all positive. But then you have this other thing that's creeping and starting to gain traction, which is states, like you mentioned earlier, Illinois, New Jersey just dropped a bill to, almost triple the tax rate on sport. Those are all really bad policy moves, but the industry hasn't done a really good job of getting ahead of them, right? They kind of, they're either hiding in the shadows or don't know how to act. Operators are really good at operating. They haven't been very good at GR, which is an important tool to gaining a more responsible regulatory structure. So I am hopeful that the remainder of this year, and soon, not later, will be spent on, as you and I do, Martin, attending those events where legislators and regulators tend to come to, and also outwardly reaching out, going into home turf to discuss. You and I had a really good conversation. We won't get into the details of it, with the co-chair of the Congressional Gaming Caucus, Congresswoman Titus. Boy, is she smart and educated and ahead of the curve. Nobody's utilizing her, and she's well respected. And I guess the final point will be, the Blumenthal excise tax issue, and some of the other sort of difficult challenges that are occurring in Congress might become more difficult should Congress change hands in the fall. That's certainly in the lineup. So, I mean, I guess we're approaching the end, because Zoltan did text me. Martin gave us an extra few minutes. I really appreciate doing this with you. I appreciate Zoltan having us. And I'm hoping we provided some benefit to the viewers and listeners. But I think 2025 is going to be a much better year, only if we use the remainder of 24 to get out in front and run a true responsible campaign to educate the policymakers.
Conscious of time as well, let me also express my gratitude. Thanks for having me back. Thanks for the chat. Bill, rhetorical question to you. Why don't you run? I'm sure that when Natalie, our younger one, turns 21 in 20 years from now, she'll definitely be an American. Vote for you. And on that note, back to you, Zoltan. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Martin. Yeah, Bill, why don't you run? It's much more complicated than yeah, it's much more complicated than that. Thank you guys again for this great update as usual. I hope you enjoy your time at the SBC conference. Say hello to Rasmus and the team from my side. And Bill, we see each other in Estonia in June, in Tallinn.
Yeah, we'll touch base next week. Yoni, good to see you, mate. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next up, I have Yoni Sidi, CEO at Wiztech, joining me for a virtual fireside chat. We will be talking about the Mexican market, right? So Yoni, it's nice to have you here. You're on mute.
Thank you
Good.
for having me. There's always one that's on mute. Thanks for having me. I don't know if I can put a bill, though.
You're not the first one today.
I'm sure. But being the next act after Bill is like being the next act after the Rolling Stones.
Nah, it's not like that. The viewers are still sticking around, so you're in good hands.
Okay, good.
All right, so before we dive into the questions and talk about the Mexican market and the regulatory complexities, could you say a few words about yourself and Wiztech to the audience so they get to know you a little bit?
Yes, so I'm Yoni, 21 years in this industry. It's the only job I've ever had. Worked for small brands, large brands, regulated, unregulated, mainly working for Playtech. So we worked on some of the larger deals as a director at the William Hill Playtech joint venture, which seems like many, many moons ago. Then some of the other brands, we also launched Caliente, which is, I suppose, my background into the Mexican market, winner.com, and lots of other interesting projects along the way. And about 3 years ago, decided that I see a gap in the market for a platform that is slightly different. And by different, I mean, obviously the industry is saturated with platform providers today, but they're all pretty much the same. Time to market is an issue, reporting, data, insights into your customers. So we started to build a platform and very fortunately stumbled across another partner in Mexico, regulated brand with 21 retail casinos, so the largest in Mexico, that had never been online. And funny enough, actually, we met them when we met Caliente about 8 or 9 years ago, and we decided to go with Caliente. So we took them online, and the growth has been phenomenal. We went live, I believe, in September of 22, and today we're one of the biggest brands in Mexico in terms of casino, and competing there against some really good big players, Caliente, of course, Cordera, and other brands. So we're focusing on different aspects of the business, not just on marketing and positioning ourselves as a sports brand, but more along the line of the futuristic brand, crypto brand, the stake.com, the BC game, just to try and engage the new audience, let's just say. And then apart from that, we have now not dozens, but a lot of other B2B clients that have seen us, that have taken our platform and like our platform. But Mexico's our main focus for sure, where we believe we can see the most amount of growth out of all the jurisdictions that we're currently working in.
All right. Thank you so much for this great introduction. And I have to do a disclaimer. I wasn't very up to date with the Mexican regulatory updates, but before we started prepping this session, I just read throughout it and I followed the news. And I saw that President Lopez Obrador has banned slots in casinos and other gambling facilities via decree in November last year. And this is why we are discussing how iGaming companies can navigate the changing regulatory environment within the Mexican market. And of course, we are going to discuss other verticals that operators can tap into to retain their players. And of course, the technologies that are needed to gain the competitive edge. So my first question to you, Yoni, is Wiztech has already made its mark on the Mexican market, as you mentioned. So what are the biggest opportunities that you have identified within the market?
First of all, it really is a great market. I think Brazil is going down that line, obviously, of regulation, but being a regulated Latin American market with such a huge population definitely has its challenges, but also big upsides. Market's evolved a lot over the 7-8 years when we launched, or when I was part of the Caliente team that launched back then. And I think the advances in technology have been most felt in Latin America and Mexico specifically. Internet and Wi-Fi is readily available, high-speed internet for a lot of the population. Smartphone penetration has increased drastically over that 7-year, 8-year period. And I think it's a new generation now that are expecting or kind of you could say expecting to have everything in the palm of their hands, whether it be streaming TV programs, e-commerce websites, and also gaming. They like to have a good, futuristic, quick website that they can relate to. So I think that's changed a lot. So I think the advance in technology in Mexico have definitely been felt. Obviously, the regulatory changes that have happened recently are going to have an effect. We're still waiting to see what that effect will be, but I've always been a big fan of regulation, maybe because I worked with Playtech for so long, but I think regulation is a good thing. It encourages the operators to put the customer first, and I think that is something that today the customer expects as a given. So I think that's one thing. And I also think the competitors that were there before us kind of paved the way and educated the market already. So, they know how to deposit, they know how to play, they know how to withdraw, they know what games to look for. And I think all of that combined together, I think makes a market with the size of Mexico extremely lucrative, potentially, if you know how to navigate your way through those choppy waters.
All right. So before we started, you mentioned that speaking after Bill Pascal is like stepping after the Rolling Stones, but it's the other way around, my friend, because the audience grew 10% now. So
I'm winning.
All right. So let's talk about the secret ingredient of winning then. So maybe you can tell us what is that secret ingredient to gaining a competitive advantage in this market, the Mexican market, and is technology key, or is there more to that?
Technology is important for sure. I'm not sure how much what we do is a secret. I don't think anyone really is reinventing the wheel. And I think something about the iGaming industry in general, we haven't really evolved too much. In the 20 years that I've been doing it, it's difficult. People have tried with virtual reality or all these different types of tools they bring in. So the technology is definitely important, but I think it's what you do with that technology. You have brands out there that invest a lot, and you can see the quality of the tech that they have, whether it be the Kaizen Group or Bet365 or the States or the PC.Games. They have technology that really does stand out once you open their app and you can see. But whereas I kind of know my place in the pecking order, and I know that I can't have hundreds of tech guys building us the best product we have. I think it's being able to utilize the technology in the right manner. So I think a lot of people are very, very similar. We have the same games, the same offerings, the same promotions for our customers. The flows and the journeys are very, very similar. But I think if you can combine that with actually having data-driven insights into the users, so you can personalize the gaming experience a bit more and not just give everyone the same. So, for example, if a customer likes to play slot games, why would we show him table games? If we know that our customers like to deposit a certain time of the day or certain period of the month, then we would tailor those offers to fully engage with him, because we know that's when he's going to be with us, or that's when he's going to become more relevant to us. And if we show him the right message at the right time, it's also better for the user, because you're removing all of the noise that is in and around the ecosystem that we have already with the gaming platforms, loads of games, lots of banners, everything popping up. I think today, with the technology that we have and the data that we have, you can give the user what he wants when he wants it. And I think that's something very, very important, and something that can be taken from brands like Netflix, for example, that they show you what you want to see, or even the social networks out there. They show you posts and stories that are relevant to you, and that also makes it much more engaging. And that's where we try and put ourselves. We try and become much more engaging with the user, and I think that helps build up the credibility. Again, we went live just over a year and a half ago, and the feedback we get from our customers is fantastic. They love the website, they love the customer support, they love the service, they love the personal touch, they love that we try and be as transparent as we can in our communication. So, we don't try and entice them in with bonuses, but not let them know that these bonuses come with wagering. So if you don't want them don't have them. And then obviously paying out the customers instantly, it's a given. They expect to receive their money within minutes. Gone are the days where you can wait 24 hours. And I get that. I fully understand that. You know, I play myself online, and it's a good feeling to know that once you press the withdraw button, the money's in your account instantly. So I don't want to say that anything we have done that has contributed to our incredible growth is a secret. I think we're just trying to do the simple things well and utilize the tools at our disposal to the best of our abilities. That is good for the user and good for us.
All right. So do you think that established companies in the Latin American market, because Mexico can be called the Latin American market, right? So do you think that established companies have more advantages over startups in this particular case?
The answer is yes. They have money. They've built up a brand. In Mexico is quite a unique market where you have one brand that is 60-70% of that market. And they're a brand that have, in terms of their marketing ability, they've taken everything and they've kept everything, which is fine. It's their strategy. They were one of the first ones into the market, and they've managed to solidify their position, which is great. But it definitely does leave it gives them a big advantage, not only that they've been there for longer, but they also have the brand trustworthiness for the customers. And it makes it harder if you don't have the big money to spend. So if you're coming in now to the Mexican market and you don't have the tens of millions that they're spending, you need to find another angle. We're fortunate that we have partnered with a really good local partner, which is a land-based casino, a well-established, well-respected land-based casino. And we've been able to utilize their brand to grow our brand. It's a joint venture, but our brand online. I think, and there are other brands out there, I think they will struggle to compete. But then it comes down to, what is their goal? Do they want to be the biggest brand in Mexico? It won't happen. Are they looking to get a 1%, 2% market share? If you're good at digital marketing, you have good influencers, and you know how to retain your customers, then yes, the opportunity is there. But I think the closer you try and get to touching the sun, the hotter it becomes. And it's not easy. You need to have a lot of patience. You need to be able to receive information and act on that information quickly, which other brands don't always have the ability to do, because unless Mexico is going to be your main market, you are going to dedicate all your resources to information and data you get to make those changes, then waiting 6 months means you've already lost all the customers you tried to acquire over that period of time. So you have to be quick, you have to be nimble, you have to be realistic with the goals that you set as a company. Like I say, we're never going to be a Caliente, we can never be a Codere, but I do believe that a well-run operation in a regulated market like Mexico has the ability to get the crumbs that are falling off the table. And that's more than enough to have a very good, profitable and enjoyable business in Mexico.
All right, good to hear that. Because besides Gaming Americas, we do have other news websites, and we report on the fintech industry. And we see a lot of news about new fintechs popping up. But when we actually look at the press releases, it's the same group of companies who are launching products. So basically, they can deploy modern solutions, and established brands in Latin America have an advantage. So back in November last year, when President Lopez Obrador banned slots in casinos and other gambling facilities, this decision has been contested. What steps should iGaming companies be taking to navigate any potential regulatory disruption within the Mexican market? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think geopolitics is always an interesting topic, especially in Latin America. It's a landscape that can change a lot over a very short period of time. So one president's legislation today could be something totally different in a few months' time. And I think Mexico is one of those countries that has seen a lot of change in the last decade. So it is being contested, and it's still not fully clear what is actually being written in the law and how that will be implemented towards the world of online. From what we understand, there will be a limitation on renewal of licenses, which, I mean, for us is a good thing, because obviously you're going to mitigate the possibility of having a saturated market, similar in Brazil, where obviously they've put the regulation through, but you're still going to have hundreds of brands operating in Brazil. Well, I think in Mexico, they're going to cap it. And I think for us, for sure, that's a good thing. Also, because of our partner that we have in Mexico, we have a very good relationship with the regulator there, Segov. So we always have our ears close to the ground, trying to understand what will need to be done and try and do it first. And we're trying to be as proactive as possible with all of the steps. I think with every regulation, they're obviously trying to put the user at the front, and make the user the most important. So I think if you're already doing or taking the necessary steps to protect the user, identifying gambling problems, KYC issues, money laundering issues, and I think if you already have those tools in place, then I think that's already the majority of that foundations set up in order to continue to operate in the Mexican market. And I also think all of those things goes back to my previous point, which helps generate the trust with the user, but also with the regulator. You know, they have experience, they know what they're looking for. There is a method to their madness. I may not agree with how they've worded the legislation. I think that's certainly something that will need to be changed. But I think the effect will mainly be felt on the retail side of the business, especially with the slots. So on our side, we're trying to make sure that we have other options for the users. You know, it shouldn't just be slots. It could be virtual tables. It could be sports. It could be esports. Just making sure that you have other offerings for the user, making sure that you are as transparent as possible. A lot of it is common sense, especially for operators that are working in other jurisdictions or have experience working in more regulated markets such as Europe. And if you can put all of those things together, then you should be okay. But I think it's also very important to have the relationship with the guys who are setting the regulation, just to understand where their mind is, what it is they're looking for, and don't wait. Try and get it. Actually, Bill said it before. I caught the end of it, but try and be ahead of the curve. And I think that is something that's so important when dealing with regulators. You don't want them to come knocking on your door. It's, you know, every operator's worst nightmare is to receive that knock on the door. So we try and have an open conversation with the regulators as often as possible, and make sure that when they do say something to us, even if it's not set in stone, then we will try and be proactive and try and get the wheels in motion. So if it does ever happen, then we're ready.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I've really seen a lot of news lately about Mexico in terms of even conferences being hosted there. I mean, of course, Brazil has been the spotlight now in Latin America, but Mexico is half the size in terms of population as Brazil. So Brazil has around 215 million or something like that, and Mexico around 125 million. That's a big market. So operators must be really, really interested in having players and retaining them. So in your view, what verticals can operators shift their attention to in order to retain their players? And how are you guys at Wiztech with your platform supporting them on doing this?
So I agree with what you say, Mexico, and it goes back to the first point, that Mexico is a great market. If you have a good local partner, and you know how to treat the customers, and you're not just having Mexico as another market, but you're actually fully focused on it, it's a fantastic market. The users are educated already. iGaming's been around for long enough. You have the technology, you have smartphone penetration, you have internet, you have a very good, cool, vibrant, young generation coming through, which I also think is very, very important. And I think you need to be able to tailor to that audience. So how to retain the customers? I actually believe it's something that we are doing very, very well on a month-to-month basis. Our KPIs are showing that the churn that we have is improving on a monthly basis, and that I actually put down to us having a forward-thinking mentality and looking towards the future. So a lot of it comes down to social gaming. And if you look at a lot of big brands in the world of social gaming, which is where the younger audience are, or perhaps they are before they become 18 and can legally gamble, they're playing at, the Playtika brand suite of casino games. Things like missions and journeys are very, very good tools to have. We've actually just rebranded our loyalty program because two customers in a year and a half actually finished and got to the end, which no one's meant to do. So we've had to kind of rejig the economy that we have. But the missions is something that we get really good positive feedback about. We have customers logging in every day just to see what the mission of the day is, try and complete it, then log off. It doesn't even need to be having a bet or making a deposit. It can be something very, very simple, liking a post on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever it may be. But just engaging with the user on a regular basis and on stuff that's not always telling them, come deposit, come play. I think that resonates with them based on their experiences in the world of social. So that's definitely something that I would say we do very, very well. The retention side of the business. We also, with our communication with the customers, we try and keep the same tone of voice and not confuse them. We're trying to build a brand identity, and because we have a retail partner, we've tried to merge that brand identity into one, just trying to make sure that the user understands that he's in a Winpot environment, which is the name of our brand in Mexico. So we try and be transparent with them. We don't try and shove bonuses down their throat. We do try and speak about the new features, whether it be the loyalty program, which you can exchange for gifts in. You can exchange for gifts in the store, whether it be a cap, a T-shirt, all these other things. I don't know what we put in our store, but there's stuff in there for the users. And then payouts is really, really important. Give the customer their money quickly. Give it to them as soon as possible. The sooner you give it to them, the sooner they'll be more inclined to bring it back. So those are the things that I would say have helped us the most in terms of retaining the customers. I would really like us to continue down that path of the social element of missions. And we've also just implemented cryptocurrency, which is another way for us to try and engage the younger audience. I hope I'm not offending any of the people who are my age, older, who aren't quite Bitcoin savvy. But those are things that I would say that we are doing well, seem to be working, and things that we would like to continue to improve on.
All right. How big is the user? I mean, not how big. How has been cryptocurrency perceived in Latin America? Because from what we know, it's very big over there.
It's massive. I didn't know how big it was. And perhaps I'm naive, perhaps I'm showing my age. I didn't know how big it was. So, okay, yes, for the fun of it, I do hold some cryptocurrencies. Do I know what I'm doing? Probably not. But over there, it's a passion. They understand about it. They know about it. They are intrigued by it. They are happy to use it as a method of depositing and withdrawing. So I was really taken back by it. Once I understood the size of it, I said, okay, guys, we need to have this and get this done. My team actually managed to do it quite quickly, which I was quite happy about. We had a really good local partner that we use for it. But it's much bigger than I anticipated or even, because you think Latin America, surely they have their own problems. No, they are really on the ball, not just with cryptocurrency, but things that are going on around the world. And maybe you think, it's 9 hours behind us and the other side of the world. I spend half my time down there every month. It doesn't cease to amaze me, the technology, the people, the vibrancy of it. everything is leading to a very modern, emerging market, not just for iGaming, but for lots of other things around the world. I just wish the traffic would be better, but in terms of cryptocurrency, they are really, really on the ball. And I would really recommend that if a brand is trying to target Latin America, then cryptocurrency is a must.
Especially since there are so many safeguards now for this industry. And in my opinion, it might be also this geopolitical stuff that you also mentioned, that maybe not trusting the government enough and being because the fluctuation of the currency and stuff like that, crypto can be a good way of still keeping the value of your money. Yeah, so most probably that's one of the reasons it got so big there. So
sure.
Usually, this is my final question, and as you know, we're already in May, so we blink twice, and it's the end of the year. That's what I like to say, and I would just like to ask, how do you see the market evolving as we progress further into 2024?
It's funny you asked that question. I actually look at my calendar saying, wow, it really is May. You're going to blink twice more, and the year will be over. Its time has flown for sure. Looking ahead to 2024, so it's going to be an interesting year. You have a lot of interesting sporting events that we could capitalize on from a user acquisition perspective. But the Mexican iGaming market itself, I think it's poised for continued growth. I think it's going to continue to evolve. I think the improvements in technology and entertainment, I think are only going to continue to accelerate the market. I anticipate maybe a greater emphasis on digital technology, personalized experience. I think will become more and more relevant to the operators working there, and more responsible gaming. I think that's going to be coming in a lot more in 2024 with the new regulation that's coming in. I think people will start taking a look at it and saying, okay, we need to be a bit more responsible to our users. Cryptocurrency and everything that goes with blockchain, I think we will see being more involved in 2024 in the Mexican market. But I cannot see a situation where this market is going to stagnate or not continue to grow on a yearly basis. And I think Wiztech as a whole, I think we've positioned ourselves very well to navigate these changes that we believe are going to happen, and then capitalize on any opportunities that might come our way.
All right, so I wish you all the luck in the world with that. And I ran out of questions. That means it's time to close our conference. Maybe if you have some closing remarks or parting words
on the Mexican market or life in general.
Next to market.
In regards to the Mexican market, like I say, I go there a lot. I love my time there. It's an absolutely fantastic country with really, really warm people, really, really intelligent people. I see a lot of brands working there but don't have a local office. I think localization is really, really important. If you want to do a job correctly, you need to have a local presence and speak the same language, which isn't just Spanish. It's much more than that in terms of how you treat your customers. But I love it every time I go there. I'm actually there on Saturday for 2 weeks. But the potential there is great. The customers are very, very smart. And you need to, again, I just feel like I'm copying Bill, but you have to stay ahead of the curve. There's no other way around it.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Yoni. Wish you all the best. And thank you for our audience for sticking around for the second quarterly meetup this year. We will be back in September with the third quarterly meetup. Until then, take good care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.